What's up, everyone? Barton Ramsey here again. Thank you so much for hopping on the Cornerstone Gundog Academy Podcast. These are a lot of fun. Thanks for the feedback on the last one I did, which was on picking order and if it's important, if it matters at all. We had some great feedback on that one. Some who agreed, some who disagreed, and we love it all. We love chatting with you guys. Keeping in the theme of puppies, this episode, I want to talk briefly about puppy socialization. What does it mean to socialize a pup? I get a lot of questions from people asking things like, what should I do with my puppy in the first few months? Or, if someone is planning, let's say, to send a dog back for professional training, they want to know, what do I do with this pup in the meantime? What do I teach it? What do I need it to know? What sort of skills should it be doing? And the answers to that are going to vary all over the place. But anytime I'm talking to other pro trainers, there is one answer that we almost always agree on. And that is anytime you're planning to send your dog back for training or just set your dog up for the best success. And if you're planning on training your own dog, this is especially true. The most important thing you can do is socialize that puppy well. Well, we've all heard that. I want to talk a little bit about what does that even mean? What does it look like to socialize your dog well? And I want to give some brief do's and don'ts, but more than that, I want to just leave you with a philosophy of socialization that I think will be helpful for you in the long run when it comes to your future puppies. Or maybe you have a puppy right now. Maybe you're looking at getting a puppy. I would say if you don't have a puppy and you have an older dog, it's not too late to do this. However, it most often is. And that is one of the problems. Socialization is not something that we can just say, oops, I did it wrong, back up and do it again. And, people say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, yeah, you can teach an old dog new tricks. You can teach a dog to do new skills at any point in its life. You can unbreak bad habits even. You can teach a dog different ways to behave, but you cannot go back and reprogram how a dog views the world. And that is what socialization is. Teaching a dog showing a dog its own worldview. A better way to say it would be helping shape the dog's worldview. So as humans, we all have a worldview. You have a lens through which you interpret things in the world. Sorry, I'm adjusting my microphone here. And that worldview might be different from somebody who was raised differently, somebody who is from a different country, somebody who's just from a different culture. Your parents largely help shape your worldview, and then your experiences shape your worldview, your faith. Those are things that shape your worldview. And as humans, that can change to an extent. With dogs, they have a much more limited worldview that is largely shaped during the first, let's just call it, year, very largely shaped in the first 6 months of their life. So, obviously, you need to find a breeder who's going to do some good socialization with your puppies, with their puppies, and that's going to take place the first 7 or 8 weeks. I prefer to keep them for 8 with their litter mates. A ton of socialization happens with their litter mates, learning how to deal with one another, learning a little bit of a pecking order, which will change once they go home. If you don't believe me, go listen to the last episode I did. And a lot of socialization happens with mom. The mom teaches puppies a lot about how to interact with the world. This is why I believe, when you look at genetics, puppies get 50% from mom, 50% from dad. When you look at behaviors, I think that puppies are a lot more like mom than dad. I think it can be as much as 60-40 or even more. And I think this is just because the first 8 weeks, well, really the first 4.5 weeks for us of their life, they're with mom. And mom shapes a lot of how they view the world. Mom shapes, what happens when you do the wrong thing. How do we encourage you to come eat and do the right thing? Lots of different behaviors. Everything as simple as, like, if you've ever seen a puppy who's scared to cross through a doorway, well, one of the ways to fix that is just let them walk in and out of doorways following mom. If mom does it, guess what? It's not scary. Puppies do it. There's lots of fun ways to socialize little pups, but I want to talk about what happens after the puppy goes home with you at, let's just say, 8 weeks old. As far as socialization, I don't want to necessarily hit on. We'll go back and talk about training, and we cover all of that inside Cornerstone, the training aspect, and we cover socialization as well. But I want to shape a little bit of how hopefully you'll view socialization, what I think is most important. So, some do's and don'ts that lead into this philosophy of shaping a dog's worldview. Uh, do try to encourage or try to set it up so that this puppy has as many positive experiences as possible with the type of things that the puppy is going to be around repeatedly throughout his or her adult life. Let's make a list of what that is. Obviously, other human beings, other people. Socialization is not just making your puppy be around other people, right? It's making sure that your puppy is around other people in a positive way, that the interactions your puppy has with others are largely positive interactions. So I like to do things like, hey, I have some friends over. I've got this new puppy. I'm going to go get the puppy out. And if you don't mind, here's a handful of kibble. And when the puppy runs up to you, I want you to feed it out of your hand. And I want you to love on it, make a big deal. Don't worry about the puppy jumping on you or any of that right now. Just a puppy. We're just going to let it have fun and be a puppy. But I want the puppy to think that you guys are awesome. Hey, people were there. I don't know them. They had food. They loved on me. They praised me. They got down on the ground and petted me. And so through repeating that over and over, hopefully what you have is a puppy that thinks that new people are awesome. And that's the goal. Other dogs is a big one. Your dog is going to be around other dogs in its lifetime, whether it's just walking into the vet. And look, you've probably had that experience. I've had that experience. When I bring one of my boys into the vet for something as simple as an AI collection, and there's a dog sitting in the corner who immediately gets aggressive and bristles up and starts to bark. Well, how do we fix that? It's very hard to fix it later in life, but as a puppy, you want to make sure that your dog is around other dogs in a safe and positive way. So gentle dogs, but dogs who are willing to play, not a dog who's just going to ignore them. Dogs who obviously make sure and make the wise decision to put your dog around only dogs who are healthy, right? No sick dogs, no possibly sick dogs. And don't risk putting your dog in an environment where you don't know the other dogs and they might have a negative experience. So positive experiences with dogs. And then we get into kind of all the little things that a working gun dog is going to need. Gunfire introduction. Socialization to gunfire is incredibly important. We'll probably do a whole podcast on just this, but it doesn't just need to be, hey, we shoot around the dog all the time so the dog learns to ignore it. No. It needs to be, hey, when the dog hears a boom, they immediately think, oh, I'm about to retrieve something. Something's fallen through the air. That's proper socialization. Water. The dog does not need to get in cold water. You want to be a positive experience. You want the dog to think water is super fun. So if you have a dog that's born in, let's just say December, don't do water introduction until the water's warm enough for it to be a good experience. Crossing boundaries, right? Crossing through thresholds, walking on slippery floors, being around, bird introduction, being on all different types of surfaces, traveling. That's a big one. Traveling in a crate. Your dog needs to be crate trained. We cover crate training with puppies extensively inside Cornerstone. Crate training is super important, but more than just crate training in the house, you need to move it to the vehicle. How can you make that a positive experience? Well, I promise you, if you just shove a puppy in a crate in the bed of a pickup and go 65, 70 miles an hour down the highway, they're going to freak out, right? That is not an ideal introduction. Instead, in a crate where they can see you in the cab of the truck with some of their favorite things, even some food, even feed them in the crate. Make sure every time you get in the truck with a young puppy, it's to drive to do something fun. Again, I've seen so many dogs who just are reluctant or flat out refuse to get in a vehicle because the only time they got in a vehicle was to go get poked and prodded at the vet, which we'll get to in a second. That's not ideal if you're getting ready to go hunt and your dog doesn't want to get in the car. Make it fun. Make it a positive experience. The vet is a huge one. You're going to be going there throughout the remainder of the dog's life, even though it's just once or twice a year. Heaven forbid, not more often because of an injury or whatever. But the vet's important. Make it a positive experience. If every time they go to the vet, they get a stool sample tube shoved up their rear end and a couple shots and then off they go, that's not fun. Make it fun. Talk to your vet. Say, hey, if you don't mind, a couple vet techs love on this puppy. I've got some kibble in a bag. Can you guys feed the puppy out of your hand in here? Let's just make sure that the vet is a fun experience. All of this sounds super simple, and it is. However, if you miss out on this, and we saw this a ton during COVID, a ton during the lockdown phase of COVID, if you miss out on this, your dog is going to develop a way of understanding the world that is likely not super positive. And if your dog has a sense of stranger danger, new things are scary, I don't know about trying that out, you're going to deal with that for the remainder of the dog's life. You can make a little headway, you can make a little progress. And look, some dogs just take a second to warm up to new things. That could be just a personality issue. I'm not talking about that. That's fine. But if you're really trying to go back and make up ground for a lack of teaching the dog a proper worldview, you're going to struggle. So all of this can be summed up in saying, teach your dog to see the world as the most amazing place to be. That's all it is. Teach your dog to see, especially the things that he or she is going to interact with throughout its lifetime, as amazing, as just so much fun. There really is no reason for a puppy at that age to have a lot of negative experiences. Now, I understand there are some chewing on an electrical cord or even chewing on shoes. These are things that are best to avoid, but I definitely understand, getting onto a puppy if you catch them in that moment to try to say, hey, don't do that. A mama dog would do the same thing with a puppy that was doing something out of line. But in general, there's not a lot of negativity that should happen around puppies at all. Later on, you're going to teach them through training how to handle things like pressure or punishment. But that shouldn't happen with 8 to, let's say, 16, 20-week-old puppy. At that phase, you should be consciously thinking every day, and this is where the mindset shift takes place. I think we get our puppy out and we think, what am I going to teach you today? And our mind goes to sit, place, heel, recall, go fetch this tennis ball and bring it back to me. And those aren't bad things to teach a puppy. In fact, we encourage you to do that. But I think if you shifted your mind and said, hey, I got an hour to spend with this puppy, how can I shape this puppy's worldview today? Then you probably make a lot more progress later on because you're going to have a pup that has the right mindset about all the activities that it's going to be participating on or in as an adult. So take that as you will for those of you who are getting a puppy, or maybe leave us some feedback on something you've done with your pup that was great. Maybe leave us some feedback on some of you, if you missed out on this, what you think you might have done wrong. We'd love to interact with you guys on the podcast in the comments and on social media, or just send us a message on social media and we'll get back to you. But yeah, would love to hear from you guys, your thoughts on that. My thoughts are, if you're getting a puppy this fall, if you just got a puppy, man, the best thing you can do is teach it that the world is an amazing place. So develop that worldview, develop a solid foundation to work on, and then build from there.